everybody. Welcome to our Halloween edition of Critical Conversations. I am Chris Shelton, and I am joined by my beautiful wife, Melissa.
Hello.
Hey, everybody. We are trying to be somewhat appropriately dressed for Halloween. Let's make sure that all is well here. Yeah, it looks like we're good. Looks like we've got some nice video. I am seeing the world through some very interestingly rose-colored glasses, I guess you could say right now, but I will be moving out of the 60s phase now because I need to see. Hey, everybody. So we are coming to you for Critical Conversations today on this 30th of October, 2020, the evening before Halloween. A favorite holiday of mine, actually. In fact, if I would almost say favorite, top of the list. Not because of trick-or-treating, because I don't do that anymore. I'm 50 years old. But because I just kind of enjoy the tradition of this one. If you read through, there's a long tradition with this holiday. It goes back quite a ways. But before we get on with that, we also need to share with you Seven's costume this month, this year. Now, Seven is here in the room with us, so Melissa's getting him. He is, as non-cooperative as he is about a camera, when we try to get him out there, here he is.
There he is, too.
There he is. It's fine. It took a lot to make that happen. Seven is very camera resistant still, but we have to sneak up on him to get 7 cam on him when we do our regular shows. But anyway, we wanted to let you know that Seven is definitely partaking in the Halloween spirit as well. So, Henny's saying something about not getting a picture of Santa. We seem to be coming across
everybody else.
Okay, yeah, I think we're okay. All right, probably a local issue there. So, we had some nice little ghost stories there in the comments before the show even started. Those were kind of fun. And I have one to share with you that a listener sent in for me to share. Thank you, Michael, for that. We'll get to that in a little bit. So, how are you this fine Halloween?
Doing all right. Yeah.
Cool. Good. Yeah, it's not as much even candy anymore as it used to be for a long time.
I know, right? When
for
you're young, you're
long
like, I'm
time.
gonna get all that candy.
Oh, remember how much fun trick-or-treating was back in the day?
Yes.
Oh, it was so much fun.
And I've been hearing on the news this year, they're like, do it different, put it all in individual Ziploc bags so people don't have to touch each other.
Yeah, I mean, something. I mean, you don't want to ruin it for everybody. It's always kind of fun. So, yeah. All right. Let's see here. There we go. Super 7. Okay. Yeah. 7 had a little cape on.
Yeah.
Okay, lots to go over here tonight. Lots to talk about with our Halloween episode. In fact, not only am I taking my sunglasses off, I also have an additional Halloween costume on under my silly 60s Halloween costume. And since this is the only time of the year that I ever get to participate in or share any of this, this is my generic fits any occasion Halloween costume. So a little silly, but there you go. Okay, so let's see. I've been wanting to share this with you guys for a couple days. I'm doing uni study. I'm doing this university study on the psychology of coercive control. Getting kind of into it now, kind of settling into a kind of schedule. Yes, we're going to tell some Phaeton stories in a little bit, too. I see Chris is commenting there in the chat. University study. So I'm kind of getting into the groove of it now. We're about 5 weeks in, and this last week. And so Now we're up to a lot of material on coercive control that is a lot of it very familiar to me, some of it not familiar at all. And I've been learning about some of the names and dates and places and situations with this. You'll see a podcast tomorrow about some legal questions I had for a lawyer friend of mine on the podcast about Scientology and cults and stuff. And a lot of that conversation stems from some of the stuff I've been learning from my uni study, because we're focusing a lot on the British law, UK law on coercive control for domestic violence victims, and how that also might be adapted or utilized for victims of coercive high control groups. So we'll see. I got a lot to learn on all that stuff, but I'm already asking questions and expressing some of my frustrations with some of the cases that Scientology has had, and how that hasn't gone so well for some of Scientology's victims. And I want to see that change in a really, really significant way. So maybe somehow through this education and future work, I can be part of a solution in that direction. And I certainly hope that might be one thing that, I might do with myself in the future. I don't know yet. It's not clear at all. Okay, so wanted to share that, but I also wanted to tell you guys that during a lecture, one of the things that hit me right upside the head this week that was really interesting and I thought informative and on point enough with all the stuff I've talked about with cult recovery is I've been winging it a lot in terms of what does recovery mean? How does recovery work? What are we trying to achieve? And I've never dared to lay out a bullet point list of like, well, you would have this and this and this and this, because it would sound to my ears, I thought of that too much in terms of like Dianetics, where Hubbard lays out bullet point, here's what a clear is, right? High, super IQ and this and never get sick and all these other things, right? And I didn't want to do that for recovery. I thought, well, I don't want to put standards there or put my own ideas there that other people have to now meet in order for them to be recovered, right? But I also haven't been in a professional capacity studying psychology, and now I am. So I'm kind of like, oh, well, this is new. And part of the presentation on destructive cults and coercive control that we heard this last week included a slide or a bit that I'm going to share with you guys about what a recovered state from a cult would look like, or what that would feel like. And since I'd never seen it before, and never seen anything broken down like this, and because of the fact that I actually believe at this point, these are seven points, criteria for healthy functioning. And this comes from Mary Harvey, cited in Trauma and Recovery by Judith Hermans, where this comes from. And I actually feel like I fit these points to a degree more so than I don't fit these points. And that's a new thing. That's not something I ever dared look up or have much to do with, actually. I hadn't even, here's the thing about this, is I hadn't even realized that I didn't dare look it up. It was just so not there, that I didn't even think that I should. Anyway, I'm probably rambling on about this too much, but the points on cult recovery that I thought you guys might find interesting: the person can tolerably manage his or her post-traumatic stress symptoms. Now, the person can tolerably manage, not there are no more symptoms or the person's symptom-free. That's not the criteria. Right? He or she can bear to remember traumatic events and how they feel today. 3, he or she can freely choose to think about past traumatic events or not. 4, he or she has reconstructed a coherent story of past events and emotions. 5, he or she has restored their self-esteem. 6, he or she has created a meaningful life and has important relationships. I do. And he or she has reestablished a congruent system of values and beliefs, which include his or her trauma history. Okay, so I didn't want to make too big of a deal out of that, but it really hit me quite between the eyes, actually, when that slide came up and the professor started talking about that, and I went, oh my God. Yeah. I do. I have reached some of these things, and this was not always true at
Mhm.
all. I mean, there, you talk about those. What are those stages of depression or
Oh,
grief?
yeah, the
Stages of
was it
grief or
5
something.
stages of grief, something like
Yeah,
that?
something like that. Now, those are not supposed to be like some sequential, you
Right,
have
no
to do this,
way.
then this, then this, then this. But in looking back at my experience over the past 8 years, I can see those stages in different, manifesting in different
Mhm.
ways. And I can certainly see times when I was very much not over the trauma or the stress or able to control, my feelings or thoughts about it, or not from a Scientological control sense of I have to control my emotions, but from the
Mhm.
more, what we're talking about here, where you just don't really have to be afraid of those memories anymore, sort of thing, maybe. And that's, I'd say that's definitely, if anything, I would say there's I've crossed over the 50% line on those points. And I don't know if this is the be all end all of recovery or whatever. But I thought it was useful information. It was certainly enlightening to me, and so I wanted to share it with you guys as soon as I could. So I'm putting that up on the Halloween show here. So that's the only non-Halloween. Well, we'll do our fallacy of the week at the end as well. I don't know how Halloween related that'll be, but anywho, I now that that's out of the way, I yes, exactly. It's a great set of goalposts. I agree, because it's not about, it's not about status with this. I'm not looking to recovery as a status button. I'm not looking for acknowledgement even, or, attaboy or anything like that. I just wanted to share that with you because it was emotionally meaningful for me. It's actually the only reason, and education. I thought that those might be useful to some of my listeners out there. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you guys. So, Halloween.
Yeah.
I didn't outline this at all. We're just
Oh,
totally
okay.
winging it. Okay. But I did pull up a couple lists, and I do have a few things I wanted to share with you guys about Halloween. I Halloween is pretty much where I give myself liberty to quote unquote believe in the supernatural, right?
Okay, okay.
I kind of give over to the fun and excitement, and even in a way,
Mhm.
if you if you can get past the horrifying part of it, the kind of adventure that would be
Mhm.
represented by being able to talk with or communicate or somehow pierce the barrier between
Yeah,
the living
life
and
and
the
death,
dead.
yeah.
Yes. And this whole model of spirits and ghosts and
Mhm.
things living on the other side. I love that stuff. I used to really be into that stuff as a kid, and you know why I was? Is because
Mhm.
my parents were. My mom, especially. She was. I don't know about supernatural beliefs in your family. We don't talk about that much. Did your family come? Do you come from a
I mean,
belief set of that?
my mom kinda had some, like, spiritual stuff, but, um, my dad and stepmom didn't really talk about, like, "Oh, this ghostly thing happened to me," kinda stuff.
Yeah.
I don't remember them ever saying anything like that.
Did you ever have any kind of spiritual, ghosty encounters, or freaky places in your house or in other people's
Oh,
homes?
yeah.
Had those kind of
Yeah.
there's something here kind of
Mhm.
things. It's a funny thing. I really should have taken a little bit of time. Today was a little bit of a packed day with the podcast and stuff too. But I really wish I'd taken a little more time to look up what that phenomenon might be called
Right, like, what it might really be.
psychologically,
Yeah. Mhm.
because I'm going to read this story to you guys here about this. This was sent in from Michael's ghost story. Thank you, Mike. And oh yes, seen the movie Flatliners. Absolutely, you
Oh,
bet I did. I
yeah.
saw that
That
movie
was a
probably
great movie.
5 times when it
Yeah.
came
That
out.
was a good movie.
Yeah, it was. I actually, and as a Scientologist watching that
Oh,
movie,
gosh.
oh, loved it. Right. All the see, as a Scientologist, you just love all the ghost stories and the super
Mm.
creepy, things that go bump in the night. Because, in fact, I think Hubbard even lectured about it. I think there was a lecture he called, um, ghosts and other things that go boom in the night or something. He kind of
Mm-hmm.
talked about ESP and paranormal
Yeah.
activity and stuff. It was always a thing for me growing up. It was always kind of a scary, mysterious, but not totally mysterious, because with Scientology, we thought we had a belief set that sort of, explained ghosts and goblins and stuff. Not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
vampires, of course, but ghosts. Anyway, so here's Michael's story. In the 1970s, I grew up in a plain stucco house in a regular neighborhood in Victoria, BC, Canada. There was nothing special about the house except for the basement. I hated the basement. The basement was L-shaped, and there were windows and a door to the backyard. My older brother's bedroom was there across the furnace, and from there, storage shelves. An ordinary basement. But every time I went down there, especially around the storage shelves, I had the feeling that I was being watched. Something didn't want me down there. Something dark. The cat's litter box was there, and she would always run up the stairs after she'd done her business, and the dog would howl at night when he was put in the basement. I felt the same way. I would take the stairs in twos to get out of there because I felt there was something following behind me, and I never looked back to see what it was. For many years, I never mentioned anything to my mother or brothers about how I felt in the basement until one particular day. I was 17 years old and looking for something in the storage area. That same feeling was there. Something was watching me. Something didn't want me there. The darkness was palpable and thick. The air felt heavy, like wading through mud. Excuse me. Then it happened. My brother's bedroom door opened and then slammed shut. But he wasn't home. The windows and door were closed. It wasn't a draft. I immediately ran up the stairs, panting from fear. I went into the kitchen where my mother was quietly listening to the radio and playing solitaire. I slowed my breathing, leaning against the kitchen wall. "What is it?" my mother asked me. I screwed up my courage and answered, "Have you ever felt something in the basement?" Her face went blank and the color drained from her. It took her a moment as she stared at me and finally said, "Yes." I asked her if my brother knew about it. "Yes," she said, "but we don't talk about it." I avoided that part of the basement after that, and soon I moved out of the house. Even now, the house is still there, changed after several owners. A plain stucco house, now very tired looking and old. I went to my brother's bedroom window and saw that it was a storage room now. A plain stucco house. So,
Yeah.
just sort of giving you a little creepy crawlies there. But that feeling, I felt that so many times. We had a shed in our backyard. We had a basement in our house in Pasadena that when I grew up there, and I was terrified of that place. I did not want to go down to that basement. And I would never, ever think about going down there if the lights were off.
Oh yeah,
Just
totally.
forget it.
That
Right.
was the house that my dad and stepmom lived at before the one they live at now. It was, my stepmom's house originally, and there was a creepy basement down there. Like, it had spiders everywhere, and it was not quite finished. You know what I mean? It was like finished, but not all the way. And
Hmm.
I had to sleep down there when I was over there for the weekend.
Exactly. Exactly. And even maybe we were afraid of more physical threats, but even being in the park at night,
Mhm.
the whole vibe changes when darkness falls.
Yes.
And I laughed. I was reading up a little bit on Halloween. There was a lot to know about the history of Halloween. But it basically comes from the fact that the weather, the seasons change, and so going into winter, of course, the days literally become shorter.
Yep.
Darkness
Things die.
falls, things die. This is the season of death as we approach fall into winter.
Mhm.
And so this is a tradition of acknowledgement, the presence of, or aliveness of the dead, of the spirits of the dead. And I mean, there are beliefs that go back to the idea that the dead for one day of the year would actually come back home, and you could interact with them, and not necessarily in a joyous way, but
Yeah.
in this Halloween sort of tradition of Samhain, or whatever that's called. I can never reconcile the fact that Gaelic Irish words are spelled one way and said some way that is completely
Yeah.
different. It's very hard for me to keep that in my head. Anyway.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting tradition that it comes from that, and it's this business of us. I think we are creatures of the light in a way. We don't like the darkness. We can't see. Our sight is our main perception. And so it's easy, I think, is where I'm kind of going with this, is I think psychologically or mentally, I think it's a lot easier for us to invent or come up with ghosts and goblins and spooks and fairies and spirits as reasons why, the seasons would change, the darkness would come, we would get those scary feelings and sensations as feelings of being watched. I mean, if you were going to boil down horror stories to, what the basic elements of what makes them scary, this idea of being watched by that which you do not know what it is, and might not be human, where is that? Let's see. Oh no, I gotta turn the, there it is. Okay. But I never had a chance to use that button. I went, hey, I get to use that today. Yes. Okay. So, my cat communicates with spirits from other worlds before he steals my steak. That is awesome. That is awesome. All right. Well, how about Coco for a Halloween movie? Well, I have a couple questions for you guys out there, and I wanted to put to you. If you have Halloween scary stories or paranormal activity that you would like to share with us, I am all ears. Both of us would love to hear your stories on this. Number is 984-214-4154. And I loved in the chat that we were getting these little stories, and then the explanation. Yeah, but I was just looking in a mirror like Henny, it's like stuff like that. I mean, I don't know how many times I've startled myself looking in a mirror. Anyway, I have a list here. In fact, I pulled up a couple lists of the top horror movies. And of course, you know me, I'm a little bit of a cinephile. I do love me some movies. And so does my significant other.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I don't know if everybody knows you are a film school grad. Right here.
Colorado Film School.
Yeah. So she and I have definitely bonded on movies.
Oh, yeah.
And horror movies, I would not say are my top genre. I've never been like a horror film aficionado, or it's not. Yeah, aficionado. It's not been quite that hardcore, but I've enjoyed my share of Halloween horror movies. In fact, my memories of scary movies go all the way back to one of the first movies I ever saw in the theater. In fact, my earliest memory of seeing a movie is a horror movie. Excuse me, it was The Omen.
Oh, geez. How old were you?
Like 7.
Oh, my.
Yeah, I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I don't know what my...
scary.
Yeah, I actually asked my parents...
what in the world were you thinking?
Yes. And they don't remember. They didn't remember it at all. They're just like, no, I don't know.
I forgot.
Yeah, or so they claimed. My mom actually was like, oh my God, we did that? And I was like, well, I have the memory of it, because for years as a child, I was terrified of these dogs that were in the movie. They had these Dobermans, or these dogs that were barking and chewing people up, and they had all this weird supernatural stuff going on. And The Omen has got to be one of the corniest movies ever. We actually a couple of years ago did an Omen horror film festival, and we watched the entire the trilogy. And that was laughable. That was a laughing event. We laughed a lot watching The Omen again. But up until that film festival, in my head, all the emotions, all the memories, everything I'd had about The Omen was terrifying. Like, really
Yeah.
heart racing, like, oh my God, The Omen, that's one of the scariest movies ever. And then I read some stuff that was like, it was one of the cheesiest horror movies. And I was like, really? And you
How
know
it changes when you get older.
Exactly. And you know how you go back and watch old TV shows, which maybe we shouldn't let ourselves do because it kind of ruins our childhood?
Uh-huh.
I went back and watched Space 1999 and The Bionic Man and The Bionic Woman and, you know, and all these old TV shows when I was growing up, and they were awful.
Yeah.
They were awful. Anyway, The Omen was my earliest film experience that I can remember, and probably the earliest traumatic episode of my life that I can remember. So we had fun with that one. Yeah, Basket Case. I actually remember that one. Pet Cemetery holds up. Yep. Okay, good. I did not watch Omen 4. No, I only watched the trilogy. I've only seen those. All right. So getting some great comments here about movies. So top horror movies. Now let me consult my lists here. I have gone to Thrillist and I have gone to Fangoria. So let's go with Fangoria first, because I kind of think of Fangoria as like old school cool, long-term horror. I mean, I was reading Fangoria in high school.
Yeah, okay.
You know, it's like old stuff. But their top 100 list of top 100 horror movies on IMDb is kind of awesome. Pretty good list. Top movie number 1 from 1973 is The Exorcist. Now, I'm not going to read all 100. Okay, but I did want to go over the top 10 because I thought these were pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested in what you guys think about this stuff. The Exorcist was the movie I saw when I was 12.
Okay.
How old were you when you saw it?
I was a grown-up, I think, because I didn't see it when I was a kid, and then I kind of remember watching it maybe with Morgan, my stepsister.
Okay. I saw it on TV.
Yeah.
It was on CBS. It was relatively uncut, including the projectile vomiting and everything. And I had never seen anything like it. The thing that terrified me about it was actually the makeup that they did with Linda Blair.
Mm-hmm.
Her eyes, her face,
Yeah.
the cuts, the lesions, everything. I mean, and she was a young girl. I'm 12 years old. She's comparable, you know, and what is happening to her? And then you see her talking and saying these things and spitting stuff up and obscenities and these priests. And I mean, I was just overwhelmed. I mean, talk about sensory overload. I had never seen anything like this stuff. I couldn't sleep for about 3 days.
Oh, I bet.
Like, really, I could not fall asleep for like 3 days. It was awful.
God.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. Let's see here. Then we had, I stood in line for 3 hours to see Exorcist.
Wow.
Yes. Oh, yes, Jaws. Oh, my God. Now, Jaws is not yet on the list here. I don't think it's in the top 10, but I will comment on Jaws, Henny, because Jaws was probably the first movie I saw. I can't remember if it was Star Wars or Jaws, which I saw first. But I distinctly remember being not horrified by Jaws. I was fascinated by it. That was my response to Jaws, is I wanted to know all about sharks after that. But Alien, on the other hand. How old were you when you saw Alien?
I was like in junior high. My mom had this boyfriend that really loved the Alien movies, so he brought them all over and we watched them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Let's watch them all.
Yeah, not all in one night, but we did watch them all. Yeah.
Okay.
Because that was back when there was only like 2 or 3 out still.
Yeah.
That was before it had like 10 or whatever it is up to now.
Yeah. I mean, Fincher kind of ruined it on 3, and then it kind of went downhill from there. But the first 2
are amazing.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, just as a movie guy, Alien is absolutely correctly rated as number 2 here on the Fangoria's list of all-time horror movies. I think Alien checks all the boxes.
Mhm.
I think it's probably one of the most perfectly made horror movies ever. That's my own personal opinion. I know that everybody's not going to necessarily agree with me on that, but
Yeah.
um, Ridley Scott is a filmmaker that I think would be a lot like if I was a filmmaker at that level, where I'd be like a lot of attention to production design and detail, and and it really pays off in spades because he creates this world that you utterly believe in
Mhm.
when he does his world building. Even if the story is off, you still and Alien was not off at all, but
Yeah.
even if he's making movies where the story's a bit off, you are still so blown away by the world building that he's done and the attention to
Mhm.
detail to every little thing of the production that you just know you're seeing a movie that is just at a different level.
Yeah.
And Alien specifically was just horrifying. It was a movie I was afraid to see, actually. Um,
Yeah, it was creepy.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I want to get into the whole story of it because I don't know how interesting it is, but yeah, scared stiff of aliens. Yeah, the alien autopsy, etc. Yes, that's right. Oh yeah, Lost Boys.
Oh, that's a great
We
movie.
will definitely get to that one. Um, Alien was a movie that came out when I was about 9 or 10 years old. So my parents were not going to let me see it or have anything to do with it. And it wasn't but what happened was they went and saw it. And then my mom came home, and she didn't do this with all the movies, but she did it with this one. Is she sat me down and she actually walked me through the entire story. She told
Huh.
me all about it. And I was fascinated. I was like, tell me about it. Tell me about it. And she did. Walked me through the whole thing, even the chest popper, all of it, right? And I was
Wow.
like, I mean, when she told me this thing came out of this guy's chest, I was like, what? What? And then a couple years later, I saw a book that had photos of that from the movie. And I was
Okay.
like, oh, that's what it looked like. Jesus, that's scary. And then
Yeah.
I finally saw the movie. And Alien always, I wished I'd been able to see it. I wish I'd been old enough to be able to see it when it premiered in the movie theater, though, because there was an experience with Alien that was quite unlike almost any other movie I've ever heard of. And that was when the chest popper scene happened. Friend of mine, older friend of mine, a Scientologist that I knew, told me when he went and saw it in the theater back in the day that um, he said after that scene, like when that scene happened, no one knew it was coming.
Oh,
This was
sure.
before it
Yeah.
had been spoiled, and so it was fresh. Everybody was just going to see this movie, and it was Alien, and it was kind. I remember the commercials. It was kind of just this very big mystery. You didn't really know what it was about. You just saw Alien, and this egg sort of shape, and that was the commercial. And so you go see it, not knowing what's coming. And he said the entire theater was like you could hear a pin drop. Like no, everybody was just what just happened when this thing happens, right? When this thing pops out. And then he said the theater just erupted. Like as soon as it was off the screen, everybody just like lost their shit. So I thought that was always something I got to miss out on
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Alien. But it was a very, 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 very good horror movie. Okay, in our review, one of my personal favorites, Halloween.
Yeah.
Halloween for Halloween, 1978. Let's see. This is John Carpenter's first major
Oh.
screen effort, I believe. I think he had done that sci-fi show, Red Dwarf or something. I think he was involved in that.
He was?
No, that was British. He was involved in something else
Yeah. I
before
was gonna
that.
say.
But I think Halloween was his first big movie. And
Red
of
Dwarf was a
course,
comedy. Yeah.
that was when Jamie Lee Curtis
Mm-hmm.
became Scream Queen.
Yeah.
Was from that. She was in a bunch of horror movies, but it started with Halloween.
Yeah.
And boy, was that movie scary to me as a 9 or 10-year-old.
Sure.
Because I saw it on cable TV. We remember when cable first started, way back in the day. So old. It was a box that would sit on top of your TV
Yep.
and it would switch it. It was like the binary, right? You turn it to channel 3 and turn the box. Anyway, yeah. So had a good time with that one. Halloween, probably shoestring budget.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't even know if there was a lot of blood.
I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen that movie.
Yeah, it was better at, there were the things that made Halloween good despite its low budget. We watch a lot of craptastic horror movies. Like really low budget, handmade films kind of deal on Amazon all the time. We have a little tradition every weekend we watch one of these movies. And the difference between watching John Carpenter do what he did with, you know, a couple cameras and a shoestring budget versus what people do now, night and day. It really is.
Yeah.
He is a new filmmaker with Halloween. You can see that. Some shots are way too long, but he does POV shots that are actually good. He does stalking. He does, quick shots. He does the framing of the shots, the suspense building. It was quite masterful. It was quite good. You could see the roots of a lot of stuff that he developed later, So anyway, that was a fun one. And I think a lot of people might think this next one should be at the top of the list. I know there's a lot of contention on the top 10. It really even shouldn't be in this sequence, I don't think. But
well, I'm wondering how far back does the top 10 go? Because there's some black and white movies that are terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is one of them. Night of the Living Dead, 1968.
I mean, like early 60s, right?
Absolutely. These ones, I think the top 100 go back as far as they need to go back. I think they're mostly based on votes, feedback, etc., kind of thing over time. So you get, the modern ones too. I somehow, older movies were built almost entirely on suspense.
Right, but they also were built on like making you imagine it yourself. So that and there's nothing freakier than what scares you the most.
Agreed.
So.
No, agreed. Exactly. I made that exact point the other day.
Yeah.
And I completely agree.
Yeah.
But I think the art of horror filmmaking has developed over the years in a way where at first where I think the toolbox expanded a little bit. In the old days, 40s,
like
50s,
any movie.
Suspense was your major component, I think. And what was happening off camera or out of frame was terrifying, scary for sure. But when you add to that color, some of what Hitchcock did, it's like some of the framing tricks.
Well, those are time about the early 60s. He had, like Psycho and...
Oh, yeah, and that's definitely on the list.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
Okay, another shoestring budget, right? Another, this is George A. Romero. This is not even, we actually saw it the other day.
Yeah, I remember.
And it wasn't even zombies. It was, they were calling them ghouls.
Yeah.
In the movie. And man, they managed to, with a shoestring budget and black and white film in 1968, George Romero, I think maybe was just out of film school. Yeah. If he even went.
I don't know if he went.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know George's history, that well, but you look at what they did with that film. Again, the attention to making a movie and setting up the shot. Anyway, I was impressed with it. And
all the zombie movies now have George Romero to thank.
That's right. Well, basically, that's exactly right.
Yep.
Without knowing what he was doing, he literally created a genre.
Yep.
Or a subgenre, I guess I could say, of the horror film, genre. Okay, so Night of the Living Dead, good stuff. Even got social commentary in there.
Right.
And then we get probably one of the single scariest experiences I've ever had in the cinema, The Shining. Now, The Shining's based on a Stephen King book.
Yes, which is even creepier than the movie.
Yes. Yes,
I read that book, yeah.
And that was actually where I was going to go with that, is that the thing about The Shining, the book, is that it is a brilliantly written book. Let's put it that way. Stephen King definitely is a master at writing suspense, horror, dark fantasy
Mm-hmm.
stories. And The Shining was a tour de force of amazing, family dynamics, alcoholism, true horror and spirits and monsters and this, personified by this scary ass hotel in the mountains of, reportedly in the mountains of Colorado.
Yeah.
And of course the isolation and getting snowed in and
Mm-hmm.
the slow degradation of sanity. And what a great premise.
Yeah.
What a great story. But
back when you could get snowed in for more than a day in
right?
Colorado.
That's right. Yeah, we haven't seen snow like that since I've been here, and I think it's been 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah. Up at that was up in Estes Park too, so that gets a little worse than down here, but
right. Yeah, inspired by an actual place, Stanley Hotel, which we've been to up in Estes Park.
Yep.
But what I wanted to say about The Shining is that the movie is a completely different story, basically, than the novel, than the book.
Yeah.
And so I originally was kind of resistant to that and had a lot of pushback and resentment for Kubrick for doing the changes that he made in the story, because I thought that they weren't necessary. But Kubrick is kind of his own guy. He kind of does his own thing, right?
Yeah, he did.
And if you can just take The Shining and away from as I see it, if you just take The Shining away from the Stephen King novel and just look at Stanley Kubrick's work for what it is without comparing that, you get this whole other thing that you can appreciate on its own merits, right? Jack Nicholson looks nuts to begin with, so so you're not necessarily putting a lot of faith or trust in him as the goes on in the novel, but there's still the degradation of his sanity, which he's brilliantly does. And Shelley Duvall's, responses to that, to watching her world, which was already basically on toothpicks, just collapse under her. But mainly the thing with The Shining was those hallways.
Oh my God.
That carpet, that music, and, of course, those 2 little girls.
Yeah.
Who want you to come play with them forever and ever and ever. I almost turned the TV off when I first saw it. I was like, what?
Nope, not for me.
Yeah, that scared the shit out of me. And again, I saw it, first time when I was about 13 or 14 years old. And man, because I didn't see it in the theater to start with. I saw it. A lot of these, for me, were TV
same here.
first, But yeah, good stuff there. How are we doing on the comments, by the way? I hope I'm not boring the hell out of everybody.
No.
Okay, good. Because I love talking about these movies. I really do. This is, Red Rum. Red Rum, yes! Yes! I mean, perfect. It's just the back and forth, the constant wondering. And then the thing that Kubrick is best at, I mean, in a way that I just don't know any other director who can do it the way he does it, is setting mood.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. The guy is he's amazing at it. He's got this way of framing shots with certain levels of music or background sound and the coloring that gets used. I mean, there is the one thing about a Stanley Kubrick movie is there is not 1 square inch of that screen that he has not poured over the details of. Not one little detail in any shot in any movie Stanley Kubrick has ever made was it by accident that I know of. I mean, maybe his earlier works, but certainly not his later stuff.
Yeah. And
certainly not The Shining. The Shining is a crafted piece of work, and maybe too crafted. And I don't get into the whole conspiracy thing with it, but I do enjoy a good horror movie. And atmosphere is everything in horror, and that's what he did with that movie, I think, more so than almost anything else, is he created this world, you totally believed in it, this isolated, scary place, and you knew that this hotel was a force of malevolence all by itself.
Yeah.
And he really captured that. And it was in a brilliant way. So yeah, Shining, definitely on there. What did you think about A Nightmare on Elm Street?
It scared the crap out of me when I first saw it. I was probably early junior high, probably like 12 or 13, and I just saw it on TV one time. So obviously I didn't see it when it came out because I was only 2. So
Yep. I was freshman in high school when it came out. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's how it is. And
but I remember it scared me, especially that idea that you can't go to sleep because he haunts your dreams.
Right. That's what got me.
Yeah.
Right. And that and all the fountain of blood that Johnny Depp's.
Yes, there was a lot of blood in that movie.
There's a lot of blood. Wes Craven is not.
He loves his blood.
He does love his blood. Yes, that is true. And I gotta say that. Don't go into room 222. The things that I loved about Nightmare on Elm Street were basically the entire movie was brilliant. And I only disagreed with the last scene because it didn't make any sense to me to stick in there that, that she had survived, she had beaten him. I thought that was great. I mean, I was all about happy endings. Even in horror movies, I prefer happy endings to crappy ones. And I've seen my share of both. I've seen the bad guys win plenty of times, or the monsters win, or whatever. I've seen the old Hammer films and old horror shorts and all kinds of stuff where the bad guys end up being the ones who win. British horror especially seems to love those twisty, horrible endings. But there is the share of American horror that has that too, and Nightmare on Elm Street is one of those. And it just didn't work for me the very, very end. But up until that moment, now that I've carped on that, everything about that movie scared the shit out of me. Everything. Yeah. I mean, the thing that Wes Craven did really right with Nightmare was he kept Freddy in the shadows.
Yes.
So you never really got all the details of his burns, his gore, his evil. He had that sort of gravelly voice, and he would, infest.
Robert Englund, yeah.
Oh yeah, and he was terrifying because you didn't understand how much power does this guy have? What can he do? And it turns out in dreams he can do anything, and you can't. And that was, and just the play of that, and just figuring that problem out, and then and then the horror of not being able to ever go to sleep. Oh man, brilliantly done. And Wes Craven's not like this great movie maker,
right?
But he
he nailed it. Yeah.
That one, the first one, cream of the crop, absolutely nailed it. So, okay, cool. All right. Number 7. We have 3 more to go, and then I'll be done with the top 10. Okay. And number 7 is Psycho.
Of course, got to be on there.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because Hitchcock is the master, and Psycho was his masterpiece. I've studied Hitchcock. I've dived into Hitchcock. I've read about Hitchcock. I've watched interviews with him. The one that Francois Truffaut did with him was awesome. I have that book out on the shelf out there. It's Hitchcock was the master for sure. The guy was an amazing director. Personally,
yeah, he was a little rude to women, but a
little bit.
Great movie maker.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, he knew how to frame shots. He knew how to create tension. He knew how to create suspense. Yeah. And he knew how to use the music and the lighting and color with the birds, black and white with Psycho, all of his other movies. I mean, but when it came to pure horror like Psycho, which I would say is suspense horror, it builds.
Yeah.
I mean, it really builds.
And it's definitely more psychological.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because there's really only 2 key points in the movie that I can recall right now where there's a release. The rest of the movie is tension building.
Yeah.
Right? When he kills Janet Leigh in the shower, and that's and when there's the reveal at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? With the dead mom, and oh my God, he's been talking to himself all this time, right? Everything else in that movie, every other second of that movie practically is used to build tension and build mystery and suspense. And it's brilliant. And you're on the edge of your seat the entire time. You have no idea. I mean, the first time I saw that, I had no idea. I knew about the shower scene, but I didn't know about anything else. And I was glad I didn't know about anything else, because when you watch that movie unprepared for what's coming all the way to the end, and you see that last shot with Anthony Perkins and that fly, oh man, just brilliant acting, brilliant shooting. I mean, brilliant direction. Everything about the end of that movie. You just walk out of the theater completely creeped out. And the bad guy didn't win, but you're still completely creeped out.
You're like, ugh.
Yeah, it's not a feel-good movie.
No.
It was good. Okay, number 8 is Dawn of the Dead. Okay, now this is 1978. Plague of zombies risen from the dead. 2 Philadelphia SWAT team members, a traffic reporter, and his television executive girlfriend seek refuge in a secluded shopping mall.
Yeah.
All right, so this is Romero again at the helm, and this is 1978, so Dawn of the Dead.
I didn't necessarily find that one as scary as the first one, but it was definitely fun, you know?
That's actually what I was going to say, is this was a way of taking horror and sort of twisting it a little bit, because it was kind of that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't Psycho.
Wasn't that the one with the zombie Hare Krishna guy? That was hilarious. One of those Dawn or Day or something of the Dead had a zombie Hare Krishna, and I was like, this is amazing.
Of course. That's actually kind of funny. Okay. Oh God, yeah, these comments are great. You guys are all over the place with this. Carrie, Hellraiser. Oh man, so many things I could comment on with that. Trying to stay focused, because you know me, I am bouncing all over I'm all over the place with this stuff. But okay, so number 9 is Friday the 13th. Now Dawn of the Dead and Friday the 13th, I don't really
agree with.
Yeah, I really don't.
I don't either. I never got into the Jason movies, but
you know, Friday the 13th is certainly a horror classic at this point. But I remember when it came out, it was a cheap, chintzy horror movie. It was just torture porn for the 1980s. It really wasn't. It was 1980. It really wasn't like, nobody was really trying to do anything like cinema with Friday the 13th. It was just a gory slasher film.
See, someone put in the comments Poltergeist. I think that should replace Friday the 13th.
I agree. Oh, thank you for mentioning Poltergeist. One of my favorite horror movies when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I read the book, saw the movie probably 10 times.
Yeah. Carol Ann.
Oh, yeah. Loved that movie. Loved the entire concept of it. In fact, I was going to say earlier when I was talking about the sort of adventure of Halloween and the idea of piercing the veil or reaching the other side or contact with the spirits, I was thinking about Poltergeist, because that's kind of what that movie does. It's got these horrifying scenes. And the scary ass clown doll, and that closet, you don't know what the hell is going in there, and all this other crazy stuff is going on, but there's also this sort of family element, and there's this lighter side to it, and that's all Spielberg's influence on that. Great movie. Poltergeist definitely should be on here. So I would switch that out.
The majority of the women in that movie are dead now.
Well, 2 of the 3. You guys are the mom, the daughter, and the other daughter. And both of the daughter.
Well, and the little psychic lady.
Oh, right.
Sure I think so.
Yeah. Probably natural causes, right?
Yeah.
She was
I
older.
don't think it was right after the movie like the rest of them.
Right. It was kind of creepy. There's also this. Did you ever hear the cursed stories about these on the set of The Exorcist?
I think so.
There were stories about ladders falling over, people almost getting hurt, weird, creepy stuff happening. In fact, there was a whole book. There were at least one book written about what was up on the set of The Exorcist and how there was creepy stuff going on there. I take all of that with a grain of salt, of course. But it is fun. Okay, now one thing you guys have been talking about in the comments when we get to number 10 is Carrie.
Woohoo!
Okay, another Stephen King novel turned to the screen. In fact, the first Stephen King novel, and the first one I think that they turned into a movie, 1976. This is Brian De Palma. This is Sissy Spacek. John Travolta plays a bit of a dickhead. And 1976, I believe, was actually prior to or just around the time he was getting involved in Scientology.
Wow.
Yeah, this is old. But Carrie, good stuff. Again, good tension building, good suspense. Um, I thought some of the horror elements could have been done a little bit better. But overall, the thing with her and her mom, again, the build up to the prom scene.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Done right. Yeah. I'll go with that.
So a friend of mine played in the band for the musical version of Carrie at the Bug Theater here in Denver.
Oh.
It was very silly.
Nice.
But awesome at the same time.
Interesting. Yeah, they got some other funny. Jaws comes in at number 17. See, Aliens is on the list at number 19, but Aliens is not even a horror movie. Aliens is an action movie, with a few horror elements in it. And I this is where I take exceptions to this stuff, is I think we really need to.
How is the Silence of the Lamb lesser than Friday the 13th?
Exactly. Or then you have The Thing at 22. So again, the sequences, we can argue the sequences all day long, but are these the best horror movies ever? Well, certainly The Thing should be up there. This is the 1982 version, again.
Yeah.
John Carpenter. Silence of the Lambs, horror, I don't know. It's classified as a drama crime thrhriller.
Yeah.
And I think it's more in that vein. Again, with horror or creepy elements to it. So, I don't know. I kind of look at those, I kind of like looking at the purity of horror films for what they are, and not trying to shove other movies into that genre just because they're a little creepy.
Right.
And Silence of the Lambs is without question right up to the edge of that creep factor. I mean, but Hannibal Lecter is really only on screen for a few minutes at a time, and he's the most
creepy part,
truly scary part of the film, where when you are confronted with Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter, you are fascinated, enthralled, almost hypnotized by his eyes. They are enthralling. He is so good, and the way Demi films them with the tight close-ups, it's especially with him.
Yeah,
he looks like this unassuming person, even somebody you could buy as a college professor or professional psychiatrist, certainly. And yet, this guy is a complete madman, and he does horrifying things. And you hear the lead up to seeing him, and then you see him, and it's everything you expected it would be and more. He's that creepy. He's that good. He brings it that hard.
Yeah.
As an actor to that role. So I thought that was really good. Now, one that did not make any of these lists that I wanted to point out. And then I'm going to ask you. I didn't prep her at all for this. My prep today has been awful. But you can think about it while I'm saying mine is undervalued, underrated, or just good movie out there that I saw in the horror genre that I don't hear enough about is It Follows.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, we should watch it.
Yeah, you've told me about it before.
It's really a metaphor for sexually transmitted diseases as far as how the creature perpetuates. And I don't want to spoil it for everybody because it's actually really worth seeing. It's another one of these low budget, probably shoestring type of deal as far as a budgeting goes. Small cast, brilliant little idea that they take in a wonderful direction, and it's the scary thing about It Follows is that you have this force that can take over a person, and then it just follows you and tries to kill you, basically, or go after you. It's not really super clear what it's going to do to you when it catches you, but you don't want to get caught by this thing, because if it catches you, that's it. And it doesn't do anything else but follow you in a direct straight line to wherever you are. You get in a car, you drive 50 miles away, it's just walking right after you, and wherever you are, it's coming straight for you. And so you constantly have to be on the run, to get away from this thing. And it's about this girl, and the way that it comes after you is it's this curse of the last person you had sex with is the person it's going to go after. And then it kind of transfers to the person
Huh.
that you had sex with. So obviously metaphor for,
Yeah.
sexually transmitted diseases, but good horror. Just straight up good stuff. So wanted to share that with you guys. Did you have anything come to
I
mind?
was thinking about when you were talking about that. I was thinking about that Denzel Washington movie that I can never remember the name of.
Oh, the one where about pursuing the devil.
demon?
Yes,
Yeah.
with John Goodman. Let me look that up because you're right.
Yeah.
That's a good one, and I think it's called Fallen or something.
Fallen. Yeah.
Denzel Washington, John Goodman, or Fallen. Yeah, I got it right. 1998. That was a good one. Yes, that was definitely a good one.
Fallen.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Dane. That was a great comment. Battlefield Earth was pretty frightening. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. That was awesome. You guys, these comments have been awesome tonight. Okay, we're gonna probably move toward wrapping up here. I was hoping we would get some calls, but okay, that's fine. I was happy to do a movie review, little impromptu take on some of the horror movies of the last few decades. That was actually kind of fun. As you can see, I don't have a problem talking about movies. I do love them. I always have, always will, always love movies. But we are going to go to our fallacy of the week. All right. And let's see if we can come up with something that might be good for horror. Okay, let's see here. Okay. This is a bias rather than a logical fallacy. In our card deck here of fallacies and biases. And this one is called, okay, now this might either be pronounced declinism, or declinism. I think it's probably declinism because it shows a little graph going down. Things are getting worse. And this bias is you remember the past as better than it was and expect the future to be worse than evidence suggests it will be. Kind of pessimism in a way, but not just pessimism because you also remember the past as better than it was.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the bias, you see.
A lot of older people do that. Not to be offensive or anything. I just think it's, I hear that a lot from people. It's like, it's better in my day. And you're like, was it really though?
I've never said that. Despite living in the most peaceful and prosperous time in history, many people believe things are getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's right now.
Yeah.
Actually. And I'm actually glad this is coming up as a point to end off on the show because I know we're Halloween. We are celebrating a good time right now. I know tensions are a little high out there and anxiety is a little high for some people, and I get it. I feel it. I feel you big time. But I want you to keep this this bias in mind because, as good as we thought we used to have it, we had all of our problems back then too.
Right.
It's just the problems we're experiencing now seem, and in some ways, certainly with COVID,
sure,
undeniable. I'm not trying to go into denialism about that.
But again, it's not the first, whatever you want to call it, plague, pandemic, whatever that's ever happened to the human race either.
No, it's not. It's not. I actually quoted Samuel Pepys today from his diaries. There was a tweet somebody had posted about how he was back in the Great Plague days.
Mm-hmm.
He was looking in and seeing people celebrating and having a good time at the bars and not willing to isolate or do anything. And he was commenting on the fact that, he really wished he was in there having, a meat and a drink with everybody, but he'd rather be alive.
Right.
And then we have, 1911, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, back in the 60s, it was rubella and Hong Kong flu. That's right. That's right. Yeah, we forget how bad hippies smelled. Perfect. Perfect. Exactly, Henny. We needed a break. I agree, and that's why I did the show this way this week. And I'm glad you guys came on and watched.
Yeah.
And had a good time with us talking about horror films and stuff. You guys' comments were awesome tonight. I really loved that. And okay, so we will start wrapping up the show. Yeah, and watch for the podcast tomorrow. Okay, it's going to be about legal stuff, but it's not hard to understand or anything like that. I really had a kind of venting, ranting, and question-filled conversation with my friend who's a lawyer. And some of my questions he could answer, and some of them he couldn't. And he was honest about that, and I appreciated it. But I think we got to some good places in the conversation that might help you understand, as well as it helped me understand what the problems have been with, trying to deal with Scientology and cults, and how we might change up what we're doing in the future, and we got some ideas on that. So I hope you guys will check that out, and then of course the Q&A show this weekend. And I will get you more updates as I go along here on my studies, and keep having a good time with this.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Good night.